My people, this is the story of Queen Ozioma of Amadi Kingdom. A story whispered in hushed tones, one that brought shame, betrayal, and chaos to a once prosperous land. In the verdant heart of eastern Nigeria, where ancient traditions intertwine with the pulse of modern life, thrived the Amadi Kingdom under the rule of King Obiora, a monarch of unparalleled wisdom and strength. His leadership was marked by prosperity and unity, as he guided his people with a fair hand and a vision for a thriving kingdom. Revered for his deep connection to the values of the land, King Obiora was a beacon of hope, his name whispered with respect and admiration. Yet, beneath the magnificence of his rule lay a dark secret, one that would challenge the very foundation of his reign and test the limits of his strength. King Obiora was married to Queen Ozioma, a woman that is an embodiment of grace and beauty, captivating all who beheld her. With her radiant smile and enchanting presence, she was not only a beloved figure in the kingdom but also a source of inspiration. Known for her intelligence and compassion, Queen Ozioma dedicated herself to the welfare of her people, forging strong bonds and fostering unity within the realm. Her elegance and charm were matched only by her fierce loyalty to King Obiora, a devotion that seemed unshakable. Yet, as the winds of fate began to shift, shadows loomed over her heart, hinting at a hidden turmoil that would ultimately lead her down a treacherous path. On a fateful moonlight night, the air thick with the scent of blooming desires, Queen Ozioma stood on the balcony of the royal garden, her heart heavy with unspoken desires. Below her, the kingdom lay bathed in silver light of the moon, peaceful yet unaware of the storm brewing within its walls. As she gazed into the distance, lost in thought, the soft sound of footsteps echoed in the courtyard. It was Emeka, the head of the royal guard, handsome and resolute, with an air of confidence that had always intrigued the queen. They had shared fleeting glances in the past, his protective presence a constant reminder of the loyalty that surrounded her. But tonight, there was an intensity in his gaze that set the queen's heart racing. "Your Majesty," Emeka called out, his voice low and steady, "the night is quiet and the royal garden is lonely. May I keep you company?" She hesitated, torn between the propriety of her station and the magnetic pull she felt toward him. As he stepped closer, the moonlight glinted off his armor, revealing a vulnerability beneath his stoic facade. With a subtle nod, she invited him to join her at the garden. As a guard, Emeka stood in a dutiful position but a very short distance from the queen. While at the garden, their conversation flowed effortlessly. As their conversation grew deeper, the queen was amazed at the level of bravery and intelligence possessed by Emeka as he constructively communicated shared positive ideas. The queen was wowed and an admiration was kindled in her heart towards Emeka. As they conversed further, her admiration grew deeper. In an instant of time, an unexpected loud explosive sound was heard around the palace and the queen stumbled in a bid to take a cover, but Emeka rushed immediately and held her up like defending her against an upcoming danger. When the queen saw how swift Emeka acted within the shorted blink of an eye, it further revealed his bravery. As the loud explosive sound waned, the queen asked, "What was that?" and Emeka replied, "I think it is the village vigilante group trying to announce that they are on duty." With Emeka's hand holding the queen behind him and the queen taking a defensive cover at his back, Emeka turned and said, "We are safe now, my queen." With their eyes glanced together in such a close almost 0 meters between them, and Emeka's fingers softly brushing the queen's skin, something deeper sparked within the both of them but not expressed. "Thank you, Emeka, you acted bravely," with an official and royal voice said the queen, maintaining her composure as the queen she headed back into the palace for the night from the garden. Just like they said, the wound is the place where the light enters you. Meaning that emotion often carry deeper meaning than what can be expressed verbally. The queen could not sleep that night as the thought of Emeka's bravery ran through her heart, but her dedication to the throne won't let her think about it further, so she brushed it off. Emeka, too, thought deeply about the glance of the queen and the softness of her skin that he felt while holding her up defensively. But he brushed the thoughts of what was coming to his mind away. He said to himself, "Who dash monkey banana?" As the day goes by, a week later under the moonlight, Queen Ozioma was having a fun time at the royal garden once again, and unknown to her Emeka was on night duty at the palace also. And Emeka dutifully came by like the other day and asked the queen if he could keep her company once more. This time the queen didn't hesitate to respond. "Come in, Emeka, how are you doing?" She showed some empathy unlike her. "I am doing great, my queen," Emeka replied. Under the moonlight, as Queen Ozioma and Emeka talked, the boundaries of their roles began to blur. His insights about leadership and duty captivated her, revealing a depth she had never expected. The queen found herself drawn to his strength, not just as a guard but as a man who saw beyond her crown. With each passing night, their meetings became more frequent, filled with laughter and shared dreams. Queen Ozioma's heart, once committed solely to her responsibilities, now pulsed with a forbidden longing. The warmth of his presence ignited a passion within her that she had thought buried under royal expectations. Her earliest desire to live a free life from her childhood not being constrained by some royal laws started resurfacing once again, but she was forced to marry the king by her parents because of the political fame and power they intend to gain from it. Yet, the duality of her life weighed heavily on her. During the day, she maintained her composure as a dedicated queen, addressing the court with grace and authority. But as twilight approached, her thoughts would drift to Emeka, eager to steal away into the garden where they could be themselves, unencumbered by duty. As weeks turned into months, their connection deepened. They exchanged whispered promises and stolen kisses, each moment a thrilling defiance of the life she had wished for. However, the more she fell for Emeka, the more she felt the strain of her dual existence. The throne demanded her loyalty, yet her heart was captive to a man that soothed her inner longings. One fateful evening as they met under the stars, Emeka expressed his fears. "Your Majesty, this cannot last forever. If we are discovered—" His voice trailed off, but the implication hung in the air. Queen Ozioma, torn between her love and her duty, replied, "I cannot bear the thought of losing you, but my responsibilities are suffocating." Yet, the thrill of their clandestine affair overshadowed her concerns. They began to meet not only in the garden but also outside the village in the city of Abuja where nobody will know them. The queen lies and take leave for vacations when she noticed that Emeka is off duty and his services may not be urgently needed in the palace. There, at Abuja, they savor moments that felt like freedom. Each encounter reinforced her feelings for him, and she found herself dreaming of a life outside the confines of her royal role. As the months passed, her secret became harder to bear. The weight of her deception threatened to fracture her identity as a queen. She felt herself slipping, caught between her commitment to the throne and the raw desire she felt for the man who had come to represent everything she craved. One evening again, during a particularly intimate meeting, Emeka took her hands and gazed deeply into her eyes. "I would do anything for you, my queen. But we cannot live like this forever." His words struck her deeply, stirring a mixture of fear and longing. But the queen's heart raced at the thought of freedom. Yet, deep down, she understood the sacrifices required to uphold her duties. As the weight of her decisions loomed larger, the pressure began to fracture her once clear vision of loyalty. In a moment of desperation, she agreed to one final encounter under the cover of the night. They met in the garden, surrounded by the fragrance of blooming jasmine. The night felt electric, a blend of passion and impending doom. The consequences of their affair were closing in like a storm. Unknown to them, one of the palace maid Amaka saw them while the queen and Emeka held each other so close at night under a dim moonlight. She was scared of the sight and she hid herself to watch what would transpire between the both of them, and she saw everything evidently. But how can a palace maid make such allegation against the queen knowing the consequences if she cannot defend it? So, she buried it within her and never said anything about it. While the kingdom believed in the queen's loyalty, she was deeply entangled in a forbidden love affair with Emeka, the captain of the royal guards. The balances of the kingdom began to shake. Amaka's silence made the spirits of the land to be angry, and she was plagued with horrific nightmares which will not be lifted except she uncovers the secret she had seen. Troubled with the ceaseless nightmares, Amaka decided to speak out. But how would she go about it? Considering the weight of the consequences of such disgraceful act, she decided to run to one of the palace elders, her heart pounding, unsure if she should tell. But how could she hold such a secret any longer, seeing that she has been plagued with nightmares? She confided in one of the elders, Elder Abuchi, shocked by what he heard after questioning Amaka if she's sure of what she was saying. Amaka narrated how since after the incident she has been afraid to open up to anyone. She also told him of how she has been plagued with nightmares because of her silence. Elder Abuchi, seeing the confidence in her, said, "I cannot keep such secret to myself. I will bring you before the council of elders to narrate this to them." So, Elder Abuchi invited the 9 cabinet of elders of the throne to his house and asked Amaka to repeat the narrative once again, and she did. The elders were troubled. They knew that if this scandal became public, the kingdom would fall into chaos. How could they confront the king with such news? How could they accuse his beloved queen of betrayal? You know how detrimental that could be without evidence. "I have an idea," said Elder Akachukwu. "Let us set up a secret camera in the royal garden without the knowledge of the king or the queen, and also appoint a loyal guard to secretly keep watch over the garden every night to give them feedback anytime he notices anything suspicious between Emeka and the queen." "This is a noble idea," said Elder Abuchi. And unanimously they agreed to his suggestion and they executed it. That same night Amaka slept peacefully without any nightmare. The plague had been lifted. As the day passed by, the royal guard who was planted as a spy by the elders brought report of what he saw between the queen and Emeka once more at the garden when they went to have time together under the dark moonlight. Confirmed by the secret camera, the elders now have enough evidence to back up their allegations. Without delay the elders appeared before the king at the royal palace. "Long live the king," the elders saluted. "To what end do I owe this unexpected visit of the elders' cabinet? We are afraid, the loyalty of the kingdom has been fractured, O king, and we are here to tell it," replied Elder Abuchi. "Spill it out," replied the king with his scepter stretched towards Elder Abuchi, a sign that means permission to speak to the king extensively with proofs. The elders began to uncover the tales of the love affair between the queen and the head of the royal guard Emeka. Evidence was there from the hidden camera to back it up. The news of the betrayal struck the king like a knife to the heart. Anger, shame, and confusion clouded his judgment. In a rage, he summoned Queen Ozioma and Emeka before the royal court. The entire kingdom gathered that day. You could hear a pin drop as King Obiora, his voice trembling with fury, demanded the truth. Queen Ozioma fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face, while Emeka stood tall, his eyes fixed on the ground, unable to deny what was true. The queen's secret affair had been exposed. The kingdom descended into chaos. The elders were divided. Some believed the queen should be banished, while others argued that such punishment would weaken the kingdom further. As for Emeka, many believed he should be executed for his treachery, but there were those who remembered his years of loyalty and service. King Obiora, blinded by grief, ordered Emeka's immediate imprisonment, and for weeks the people awaited his judgment. Would he sentence his queen, the woman he once loved? Or would he spare her for the sake of the kingdom's reputation? In the end, King Obiora made a choice that no one expected. He could not bring himself to execute Emeka or banish Queen Ozioma. Instead, he exiled them both to live as commoners in the farthest part of the kingdom, never to return to the palace again. The king, though heartbroken, believed this was the only way to maintain peace without bloodshed. But the kingdom was never the same again. The scandal lingered in the hearts of the villagers, and though King Obiora remained on the throne, his rule lost the respect and trust it once commanded. Amadi Kingdom never fully recovered from the shame and betrayal brought by the secret affair of Queen Ozioma and Emeka. My people, this story teaches us that no matter how much you try to hide the truth, it has a way of revealing itself. And sometimes, the consequences are far more devastating than we could ever imagine. Thank you so much for watching. Please, we beg you to subscribe to our channel to help us grow and share more engaging African stories like this. We love you. Please don't forget to subscribe.